Tale of Shim Chong, The Tale of Shim Chong Korean, Simcheongga, Hanja, Chen Chuan, R.R. Simcheongga is a Korean folk tale. Simcheongga is the Pansori of the tale. It was adapted on screen by Shin Sang-ok twice, once in South Korea in 1972, and as the Tale of Shim Chong in 1985, when he and his wife Choi Eun-hee were abducted to North Korea. Introduction. Simcheongga is a story about Simcheong who throws herself into the Sea of Indangsu as a sacrifice so that her blind father can regain his eyesight. Her filial piety helps her to be resurrected and become an empress, and her father's blindness is cured. Authorship. The identity of the author is unknown, and the period in which this work was created is also unknown. However, there is a mention of a Jeonggisu professional storyteller reading Simcheongga in Chuji Jipkyu Jajai collected writings of Chuji Jo Suzum, written by Jo Suzum Zhao Ziu San, 1762–1847. Therefore, scholars believe that Simcheongga existed as a complete work in the 18th century. Literature. Texts. There are handwritten, woodblock print, and metal type print editions of Simcheongga. Simcheongga Jeonjip Simseongjin, Jeonjip Complete Collection of Simcheongga edited by Kim Jin-young et al. Hanja 2004 contains a total of 83 different editions of the story. Woodblock editions are largely divided into three groups: Hanam edition version and Songdong edition version, which were published in Seoul, and Jeonju edition version. Major differences among the three versions are: 1. The appearance of a celestial being who comes down to earth, Hanam edition version. 2. The appearance of Bibindeok's mother, Songdong edition version. And 3. The appearance of Lady Jang, Jeonju edition version. Generally, the Hanam edition is considered to be the earliest version of Simcheongga, followed by the Songdong edition and the Jeonju edition. Sometimes the different editions of Simcheongga are grouped by whether the writing style shows characteristics of Pansori or written fiction, by the different spellings of the name of Simcheong's father, and by the differences in the section featuring Lady Jang. Most handwritten editions of Simcheongga are considered to be the Jeonju edition version. Plot. The Hanam edition version, published in 24 sheets in Seoul, features the following plot. During the reign of Emperor Chenghu in Ming China, Simcheong and his wife Jeong give birth to a daughter named Simcheong. Upon giving birth to Simcheong, Jeong dies and Sim suffers from an illness that renders him blind. As a single father, Simcheong raises Simcheong all by himself. In the year Simcheong turns 13, Simcheong goes out by himself and gets into trouble, whereupon a Buddhist monk rescues him and tells him that he will regain his eyesight if he gives 300 sacks of rice as an offering to Buddha. Sim promises the offering to the monk and returns home. Simcheong finds out about her father's promise and volunteers to become a sacrifice for the seaman in return for 300 sacks of rice. When Simcheong throws herself into the Sea of Indangsu, she is summoned by the Dragon King, is resurrected in a lotus flower, and becomes an empress. Now an empress, Simcheong hosts a feast for the blind and reunites with her father. Overjoyed at the reunion with his daughter, Simcheong regains his eyesight. Although the versions of editions printed in Seoul tend to be relatively unpolished, Jeonju edition versions are more detailed and elaborate. Bibindeok's mother. Bibindeok's mother is a character who appears after Simcheong falls into the waters of Indangsu. She swindles Simcheong and steals his money. The negative image of Bibindeok's mother is apparent from the description of her appearance and actions. Although there are differences in different editions, in most cases, Bibindeok's mother is described as an ugly woman with a strong sexual appetite. She becomes a more prominent character in the Jeonju edition and Sinji-hyo edition, and Simcheong's father also becomes more important in the plot. This has led some scholars to argue that Simcheong's father becomes a main character in the Jeonju edition version, while Simcheong is the sole main character in earlier versions of Simcheongga. On the way to the feast for the blind that Simcheong hosts as an empress, Bibindiak's mother falls in love with blind Hwang and runs away with him. In relation to the appearance of Bibindiak's mother, the Yanmin culture is often discussed as an important aspect shown through Simcheong's father, who is depicted as a foolish man who becomes infatuated with a woman and squanders his fortune away. This shows that while Simcheong-jeon tells the story of Simcheong's filial piety on the surface, the depiction of Simcheong's father shows people's criticism of the reality and ideologies of the time. Features and significance. Pansori-based fiction. As Pansori became popular in the late Joseon dynasty, stories of Pansori began to be enjoyed in the book form. Pansori-Simcheongga became a novel titled Simcheongjeon. Pansori-based fiction is generally thought to have originated from folk narratives Seolhwa, which became Pansori, and later novels. But in the case of Simcheongjeon, some believe that the novel version came before the Pansori. Original folk narratives. Simcheongjeon is considered to be a result of several different folk narratives, such as Hyeoneo Jeon Seol, Wazayo Nujai and Shuohue story of Jeon, a filial daughter, Gwaenum Se Yongi Seol, Wagwanyin Se Yuan Kai Shuohue story about the origin of Gwaenium Temple, in Singong Hui Seol were Ren Shengong Zai Shuohue story of a human sacrifice. Some also believe that it is a combination of Gin Seol Hukai Yan Shuohue story of regaining eyesight and Chineo Singji Seol story of a virgin sacrifice. Hyeoneo Jeon Seol tells the story of a girl named Jeon who took care of her mother by selling her body. Gwaenum Se Yongi Seol is about one Hanja who made an offering to the Buddha for her father and later became an empress. After becoming an empress, she sent a statue of Gwaenium to Korea, and Gwaenium Temple was built in Gokseong to house the statue. In Singong Hui Seolhwa is a story about making a human sacrifice to a celestial being, while Gihin Seolhwa tells a story about a blind person regaining his eyesight. Lastly, Chineo Singji Seolhwa is a folk narrative about offering up an unmarried woman as a sacrifice. Other Yo Jiu Hyun Lu Gui Heng, 1848-1921 rewrote Simcheongjeon in Chinese characters and entitled it Japjuk Simcheong Wangujeon, Miscellaneous Play, Tale of Queen Simcheong. This edition was created for a performance at Wongaksa, the first modern Korean theater, and therefore is presumed to have been written sometime between 1907 and 1908 when performances were staged at Wongaksa. Simcheongjeon was also rewritten into a Sinsosol titled Gangsingyeon Jang Shang Lion, Lotus in the River by Yihijou Lai Haizhao, 1869-1927. Gangsingyeon was published in 33 installments in Mil Shinbo from March 17 to April 26, 1912. Simcheongjeon has been rewritten as modern fiction and poem and also adapted into song, TV show, film, Changjuk, opera, musical, Manning Nori, and children's book. Most recently, Universal Ballet held a ballet performance titled Shim Chong October 2019. The town of Gokseong in Jeollanam-do hosts the annual Simcheong Festival in an attempt to celebrate Simcheong's filial piety and reinterpret the meaning of filial piety in modern society. Gokseong is considered to be the setting for Gwaenun Se Yongi Seolhwa, which is known to be the original story on which Simcheongjeon is based. Translations. English, Lish, 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 English. H. N. Allen, Simcheong, The Dutiful Daughter, Korean Tales, New York and London, The Knickerbocker Press, 1889. Charles M. Taylor, Winning Buddha's Smile, A Korean Legend, Boston, Gohem Press, 1919. W. E. Skilland, The Story of Shim Chong, Korean Classical Literature, an Anthology, London, Kengyun Poll International, 1989. Marshall R. Pale, The Song of Shim Ch, The Korean Singer of Tales, The Harvard Yenching Institute Monograph Series 37, Harvard University Press, 1994. Riordan, James. Blind Min's Daughter Shim Chong, Korean Folk Tales. Oxford Myths and Legends. Oxford University Press, 2000 1994. pp. 4-13. J. S. Gale, The Story of Simcheongga. Gale, James Scarth Papers, unpublished. French. Le Bois Secret Fleury, translated by Hong T. Jeong OU. Ernest Leroux, 1895.